What up, world? This your girl Sade with Sade Speaks, and I'm back at another episode. I just came through real quick, y'all, to drop something in y'all spirit that I learned. Oh man. So I am coming from the point today, slept on. Sometimes we be feeling like people be sleeping on us, but a lot of times we sleep on ourselves. And when you okay, so let me tell you where I get this idea from. So today, sorry, last weekend I went to Texas and I went to a young adult conference, and I was in this workshop that talked about suffering, right? Because for the most part, everybody knows that when you serve God, you're gonna have to suffer, and He suffered for us, so it's only right that we suffer for Him. And even if you don't serve God, guess what? This life is still going to bring about suffering. So I'd rather be in Christ suffering than be out of Christ. Meaning, I'd rather have a relationship with God while I'm going through, versus not having a relationship and going through. Because in this life, you're going to go through. That's just life. You're going to have trials. You're going to have some form of suffering, right? Um, but anyway, he was coming from Luke chapter 22, and this is like when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, like right before he was about to be crucified, right? And he told his disciples to stay awake and pray so that temptation would not take over them. For some reason, that verse was stuck in my head. Now, I have heard, sermons on this specific topic about how the disciples fell asleep on him, how they slept on Christ. Like here it is, he had one of the hardest moments in his life, and he asked y'all to pray for him so he can, while he about to go through, and he come back and y'all folks sleep. But I think what I was stuck on was the word temptation. I wanted to know what temptation can possibly take over them while they're out here, right? Um, what type of temptation are they supposed to be like watching out for? Because when I think about temptation, I think about things that I think of pleasure, things that I'm tempted to do that I used to do or that I enjoy doing that I know is contrary to what God wants me to do, right? But the way this temptation, I guess when I read it, temptation was presented in a different way because I never looked at this particular thing as being a temptation. So, in this particular situation, again, like I stated, Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane. This is when he's about to get ready to be crucified. So he's at this point he is pleading with his father, like, listen, I don't really want to go through this. Like, I don't want to go through this at all. Like, I'm in agony right now. However, if it's your will, if this is what you want me to do, Father, I'm here to please you. I'm gonna do just that. That was his mindset. And um the temptation that Christ was speaking of was them actually going to sleep. Because I didn't understand, like, what was I understand the issue of them going to sleep, but it had to be some more to that. Like, okay, why was going to sleep a problem other than I'm going through this right now? But why are you going to sleep? So in my head, I'm thinking physical sleep, right? And I'm sure they probably did go into physical sleep, but it's so much deeper than what I thought it was. So as I began to study, I realized that he's telling them not to stay awake because what Christ is radical. He's all about teaching, the master teacher. So in every situation, there's gonna always be a lesson. So I realized that the reason why it was an issue for them to fall asleep, not only because Jesus was about to go, like he's going through one of the hardest things, in his human life. Like, I got to be crucified and I got to deal with this. Like, this is a big thing. Like, it's a lot of pain that I got to go through, and they out here asleep. Not only that, but Christ wanted them to learn something. He wanted them to see that there is a natural connection between suffering and transformation, and the necessity of the process, to be willing to carry tension, disappointment, unfairness without giving into despair, pretty much hopelessness, bitterness, recrimination. Sorry, y'all, me and my words, whatever. And the urge to go backwards. So Luke says that they fell asleep out of sheer sorrow, meaning from their point of view, I'm depressed. I'm hopeless because the person who I've been following all this time just told me that he's about to die. And I don't want it to happen. That was the hopelessness. Like, they've been rocking with him all this time. Now he's leaving us. What are we going to do? Oh my goodness. In context, that's what it means. That's why he says they fell asleep out of sheer sorrow. They were disappointed. You could say depressed. You could say, I would say depressed, disappointed, just kind of like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm feeling hopeless. Um, and that's pretty much why they fell asleep. But that's the temptation he was warning them about. Like, I don't want you to be tempted to fall into this mindset, right? And this is the lesson for us, because in life we sleep on ourselves all the time. um we sleep on ourselves when we feel like all hope is gone. I don't hit rock bottom, because that's pretty much what despair means. Complete loss of absence of hope. Like, it's over with. I don't have no hope. I don't hit rock bottom. It is what it is. When we become overwhelmed and disappointed in this life, we begin to our actions begin to be hostile instead of, moving in love. Sometimes we become paranoid or anxious instead of trusting. And a lot of times, um we're tempted to just give up. You know what I'm saying? um and when you think about it, every time that we have come to life, because all of us can relate to this, every time in life where we have experienced some form of suffering that put us in this state of mind, 9 out of 10 our actions were sinful. That's why it's considered a temptation. Because when you fall, what did he say? Fell asleep out of sheer sorrow. When we fall asleep out of sheer sorrow, and we go to feeling sorry for ourselves, when we go to being disappointed about the things that life throws at us, when we're depressed about whatever we may be dealing with, we begin to act out of despair. When we're lonely, we begin to do things that are not of God. And I can truly, truly testify to this, y'all. I'm just going to keep it all the way real with y'all. All of my most impulsive actions are doing things that were just completely dumb and completely sinful, uh, when I was hopeless, when I felt like I had nothing to live for, when I felt like what's the point? I'm giving up. Like, when I was in that state of mind is when I made most of my mistakes. And what Christ wants us to know is that we need to pray when we are in the season of suffering. We are in the season of a lot of disappointments, when we're in the season of like just going through life. Prayer is so important, because if not, we gonna fall asleep in sheer sorrow. And then that's when the devil, we become vulnerable. He begins to like tempt us with all the things that we had once turned away from, that God pull us away from, and here we go slowly going right back down that rabbit hole, because that's the state of mind we're in. That's the lesson he was trying to teach, bro. When I read that, I was just like, wow. I never, because for the longest, I know people made a big deal about it, about the disciples falling asleep. But if I'm being real, I didn't know. Okay, and let me just go ahead and add this in there. They didn't fall asleep because they were tired. Because at one point I'm thinking, okay, maybe they've been working all day, maybe they tired. No, it was just straight out of depression. Like, when we be going through stuff and we depressed, we sleep. Figuratively, like, we literally sleep, and then figuratively we sleep too. Like, we sleep on ourselves by how we move and what we do. It shows that we have no more hope because of our actions, pretty much. And he wants us to be careful of that. That's why prayer is so, so important. Think about it. When we are weak and we are overcome by disappointment, that's when we give into our temptation. And we have fallen asleep out of sorrow, just like disciples did in the Garden of Gethsemane. When we feel like life is so complex and we're being like squeezed, we begin to follow temptation, and or we give into temptation at times, and we're just like the disciples that were in Gethsemane. So I guess the message here today is to encourage you. Like, we all gonna have to suffer in this life, right? But I want to encourage you, while I encourage myself, through a season of all of us have our different seasons. I'm not gonna say it's a suffering season, but this is more of a teaching season for me. And sometimes teaching comes in the forms of suffering, right? But I will encourage you guys, while I encourage myself, that when we are in those seasons, to really, really, really have that connection with God. Because when we don't, we give into our temptation, and sometimes we can't come back from it. Thank God that they were able to come back from it, but sometimes we can't. Um, but yeah, y'all, this blessed me. This really, really blessed me, because again, I didn't view it, I didn't understand what the temptation was until I actually like studied on it. It's been in my mind like all week, and I was like, let me just dig a little deeper and see what exactly, like, what was the lesson? Like, how can we apply it? And this is how we can apply it. This is the practical way that we can apply it. And when we're going through, pray. Be in constant communication with God. This is how you stop yourself from making decisions and doing things that you may not be able to come back from, or making decisions where you're going to end up hurting everybody else, including yourself, because you were in a mindset of despair, or because you had just simply slept on yourself. You fell asleep just like the disciples did in the Garden of Gethsemane. I hope this bless you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I love y'all. Thank y'all for continuing to rock with me. And that book is coming, y'all. It's already been printed, and it should be coming soon. And I cannot wait. You guys can still purchase. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good one. I'm out.